Love it, which is really cool. So I would like to welcome Dan, Dan Frankel, who is a shiatsu practitioner and founded Melbourne Shiatsu. Is that what it's called, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah, Melbourne Shiatsu. And I have had the honor of having shiatsus from Dan and absolutely love them and feel sad that I can't during COVID. But happy to see your face, Dan, and to hear your story of how you are where you are today, how you got to be here.
Cool, thank you. Okay, so I mean, a short history about me. When it comes to running a business, or having multiple things on the go, it's always been kind of my way. What I've always naturally gone to. When I moved to Melbourne in '99 to study music, I was working as a kitchen hand, as well as working in a furniture shop, as well as helping out in like a St. Vincent's art space for disadvantaged youth. And yeah, so having multiple things on the go always seemed to make me happy, and working for myself always made me happier. Whenever I worked for someone else and I was too tightly controlled, I always had resistance, and I either got myself in a situation where I had to quit or where they had to fire me. I rarely could last very long with somebody kind of pushing down on me. I always thought, why can't I just do this myself? I didn't really take to the convenience of being employed. Yeah, so learning that, like basically when I started studying shiatsu, I was working, and then when I graduated and opened my business, I would have a job. I'd be running my business. I'd also I worked out of 3 different clinics, and the variety made for like a full-time experience. And I'm still doing that to this day. You know, before COVID, in the space where I am at the moment, I'm doing my Melbourne shiatsu clients. I'm also managing another clinic, as well as working that clinic, as well as I was running an Airbnb and working at some markets. So, and in doing that, I got the variety that I kind of crave, as well as they all ended up supporting each other and helping me build my business, Melbourne Shiatsu, which means with time, I slowly shed the things I don't want and just managed to fill my time with the one main thing, which is Melbourne Shiatsu, because I love it and it's my baby. And you know, that's how it's led for me, basically. You know, like in 2010, I was working, like I said, at the Japanese bathhouse after graduating, and I set up a clinic in Abbotsford Convent, as well as another clinic in Abbotsford and my home clinic. And I tried to just make them work. They didn't though, because there were lots of skills I didn't have yet. And the things that have really kind of helped my business, Melbourne Shiatsu, grow is, apart from the variety of being in multiple places and talking about it, and you know, having the marketers advertising and filling my free time with passive income like Airbnb, so or managing another clinic, is you know, learning how to use online platforms, making sure I have online bookings, making sure that people have ease and access to what I do without having too much trouble. People like it to be really fluid, and unfortunately, I mean, I don't actually like this about where things are going, but people want the convenience of all the information without having to talk to anyone until the very last minute. Whereas it used to be all bookings, all information was over the phone or email. Your website was like a landing page of information, but they could only get to the next step through talking to you. But these days, what my business has grown exponentially since making it really easy for everyone to not have anything to do with me until they walk through the door the very first time. Which is, yeah, it's something to get used to. But yeah, so when it comes to setting up the business from the beginning and helping it grow, my experience was basically, yeah, having a passive income or an income that isn't directly connected to the business and reliant on the business. So, I mean, to be where I am now, in 2013, I sold the house that I was living in, which was an early inheritance that I got when my mother passed quite young. And I sold that to basically fund me moving into a space where I could work properly and have a functional clinic out of it. And in doing that, I also set up the Airbnb space in the same area. So I managed to convert a space where I could have, you know, my business running, which is, you know, doing massage. And in the days where I wanted to have time off, or in the days where I was noticing there were no clients booking in, I would open it up and turn it into an Airbnb. And so I have you know, I built a new Japanese bath that people can soak in before their massage, or the Airbnb guests could stay in. And the clinic room became a bedroom, and the sitting room became a waiting room. And I would just make it really easy to change it, like really fine tune how much furniture I had to move. And I could turn it from one to the other in 30 minutes, flat, like easy. That way, if somebody booked in and there were no clients, I'd block the calendar out. And having technology these days with your phone, you can literally have 3 calendars all overlapping each other and connected, and prevent them from kind of banging into each other, and making it so you have open space for multiple things running. First one that takes it automatically blocks out the other. And that means that all your income streams are available, and whichever one's active at that time is what's happening. So you're always actively earning something. And then as you know, the one that you really want to grow, as that kind of starts filling in the spaces where you're available, then you can open up more spaces for it to fill, and slowly, you know, fill that whole cauldron of the thing you love, rather than just, you know, Airbnb. I mean, Airbnb, I don't have to do anything for 12 hours while they stay there, or 18 hours, other than change the bed when they leave and turn it back into a cleaning room. Not that I'm doing Airbnb anymore, because COVID's killed that. COVID's paused everything, basically. But so if there's any questions at any point, please just interrupt me. I'm just trying to deliver my story in whatever way it's kind of flowing. Yeah, so online booking. Oh yeah, some hurdles that I've come up with over the last few years have definitely been my own attitude. I feel like my attitude got in the way a lot when I had, you know, imposter syndrome, or was feeling low in my confidence, or doubting myself, feeling like even though I've done like multiple years of studying and like 20 hours a year of professional development for 10 years, and, you know, all this stuff, I still would doubt myself constantly. And that's where, you know, thankfully I had the Airbnb, or managing another business where I'm just doing the books for them, because I would shut off my calendar sometimes because I didn't feel like I should be working in the business that I love. I would completely doubt my entire life about it and just turn it off. So that's where the passive income, or the secondary or third or fourth kind of micro business that you have going, is really helpful if you need a mental break, basically. And that could even be, you know, having a job and being casual, or, you know, part-time. So yeah, my relationship with money is another big hurdle, because starting a small bit, you know, when you're employed by somebody, you have an agreed payment, you sign your contract, and it just happens automatically. You don't have to sit there and take their card from them, or take their cash from them. And I always found money a really hard thing, especially when people I know started becoming clients or friends. You know, you obviously always give them a discount, or when you start charging higher money, and you don't feel like you're worth it, even though it's industry standard amount, you have to really change your relationship around money, and realize that exchange is not only paying for what they've received in that instance, it's also paying for all your years of study. It's paying for the countless hours of internet work and advertising, and, you know, like correcting things on websites. It's the only thing that can help fund your entire experience, you know, because I mean, even if I'm doing 25 hours of massage in a week, I'm probably also doing 15 hours of communication, giveaways on Instagram, networking, it's a constant thing. And for quite a while, for a few years of running a business, especially in this day and age where everyone's an expert of everything by sharing 10-second clips, you need to be out there. You need to build like a solid foundation around your business, your kind of personality out there, but not bullshit either, because bullshit really stinks. Be genuine. People can smell it if you're not being real. And yeah, so I mean, that's I can smell it, but a lot of people are buying all these products and everything, so you need to be consistently present, and it takes up a lot of your downtime being active online. And this is where, again, having micro businesses to help support that and fund that. Any questions? I feel like I'm talking a million miles an hour here. Okay.
Yeah. I've got a question.
Please, yeah.
Is that working? Can you hear me?
I can. It's a bit funny, but I think it works, yeah.
What kinds of stuff are you doing online to promote your business?
So running like social media platforms. So like my Facebook page, which doesn't ever, I've noticed Facebook is kind of a dying thing with certain kinds of businesses. Instagram is huge. So finding good information that's like quality information and just sharing that. The thing is, you have to then be reading, be researching, and finding stuff that's good enough to share in a one picture, because people only want pictures these days. They don't want too many words, and I'm very wordy, so I've had to learn to cut back my words and find a picture that represents what I want to say. But, for them, it's like a picture popping up for a second, and they go, "That's interesting." Go to your profile, but to find the right picture can take you, a while, or it can take you multiple pictures, like of sharing other people's content that are quality people, and creating community that share between each other. That's the biggest thing, really. If you can build a community that is sharing you and you're sharing them, kind of like this platform that Rach has got going here, where people are sharing information. I feel like it's the same thing online. If you want to have like clients come through the door, or people buy your product, it's about people they trust backing you up. Their friends, their family, other brands, other practitioners, because otherwise there's like what I was saying before, there's just so much out there. People are bombarded and overwhelmed with products, people making all these claims, and most of the information that's out there is stuff that was around before Instagram. It's just everyone's trying to sell it as a new thing, and it's constantly like, oh my God, making everybody doubt everything they've ever known, or constantly jumping from one thing to the next, one product to the next, one practitioner to the next, bringing it back. So that's why you need people who are reliable, good at what they do, good products, good, trustworthy friends, and just referring through that, sharing each other's content. But having an online community across the world, or across a country, or even in a whole city where it's all just online, it takes a lot of sharing of people's content. I'll actually message other practitioners and get to know them, see if they're doing a course, ask them how it is, and see who and that's just the social media side of things. That's not even you don't get paid for any of that. I also do giveaways on my Instagram and Facebook, like free raffles, so that people tag each other, and you get a free massage out of it. Using your own product as currency is gold, especially if, for me, it doesn't cost me any money to, other than eating, going to the gym, whatever, staying healthy. I don't have to buy a product to give a product. Like, I can give someone an hour of my time, and it's an hour I can't get back, which is probably, time is probably the most valuable currency, but it's also, I don't have to have money in the bank to advertise myself. And the more you can do that, the more product you can have, it doesn't involve draining your bank account, the better, I think. Like, my overheads instantly go down when I am my own product. I've tried like paid advertising. Occasionally I'll do a little boost, but out of maybe, every 10,000 people, I might get 1 booking or 2 bookings. It's pretty weak turnaround. But in saying that, you only need 1 booking to pay back your ad. So many times I've done that, paid back my ad. What else can I share with you? Yeah, so yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, go.
I was just going to say, I'm glad I'm not the only person that's very wordy. I always have to tell the whole story.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've been told a million times that my social media posts, they're covered in words over the picture, and I'm always getting told, by friends who are good at advertising, just take the words off. And I did a trial where I ran a picture of me giving a massage, and not even a person in it, just black and white, me leaning over a body, and then I looked at the stats for the picture and for the ad, and it cost me like $20, and I had more people go to my website through that, just a picture of me in black and white leaning over somebody's, like, hands on someone's back. That had the best hit rate than like me saying 10% off or whatever, like giveaway, stuff like that. It was just people went, that looks interesting.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. So literally 0 words got me further. So I tried to get into making like short videos of multiple good pictures. Still, nothing has beaten the impact that 1 photo had.
Wow.
I don't quite understand how that happened. But yeah, so another note I have here behind the camera with my whiteboard is to use apps as automations as much as you can. Use the technology to buy yourself time, absolutely. Because you need to be, everybody lives in a 24-hour world, right? Everyone wants everything now as well. And everything's on whenever you're awake. You can be anywhere in the world really actively doing something. There's no downness. And so being available constantly or seemingly available is important. So having your apps automatically send out, how was your experience? Or automatically respond to somebody who's gone to your website saying, thanks for visiting, like things like that. It takes out you having to remind people that you exist. There's all these automations you can send. If someone hasn't come for a while, they can receive an email. Someone hasn't bought for a while, you can send a prompt. And use it to your advantage, because otherwise you're sitting there scanning through everything, trying to catch up with everybody. And then you forget that you actually have a family. You have to, you need sleep. All of those important things, like self-care, which is really kind of valuable stuff. You can't run a business if you run yourself into the ground trying. And one thing, that I've been thinking about recently, after being 10 years into running Melbourne Shiatsu, and I think it was 2003 or something like that, where I started Dan's Bistro ages ago, where I was running a failed restaurant, and then I was doing like buying and selling stuff off the Trading Post when it was a piece of newspaper. The one thing I've noticed is stick it out, 100%. The longer you're there, it's like one of those competitions with the hand on the car. Whoever stays the longest wins the car. It's the truth. People burn out after 2 or 3 years. If you can find a way to stay interested in what you're doing and immerse yourself, where you can speak the language of other people's emotional language, as well as the language of your art form or your product, then then you're going to be above everybody else in a way. And if you're there long enough, you get known well enough, you get spoken about in enough circles that it all becomes a big pool, and it's enough to fund your product. Like, I don't like using the word product when it comes to what I do, but I can see why it's relevant in this platform. But yeah, I mean, so sticking it out basically, and also just doing it, even if it's messy. Just getting started, because you need to make mistakes to learn how to do something perfectly. So if you're afraid to start because you're afraid you want it perfectly from day dot, then you'll never start, because it's impossible to be perfect without mistakes. There is a saying, but I can't remember what it is. But it's a beautiful saying that I was meant to say today, and I forgot to write it down, so I can't. But just step forward and get into it. Don't be your own limitation. Let me see what else is here. Yeah, a landing page on the internet. I don't think that's enough. It wasn't enough for me, but you have to have at least have a landing page on Instagram, Facebook, and a website, and easy payment methods. But for me, it wasn't enough having just a landing page. I need to have a booking page. I need to have an interaction page. I need to have a temptation page. So descriptions of what I offer, because this is a physical experience for someone, rather than just having a landing page with like, buy it here, if they already know what the product is because they saw it at their friend's house or whatever. But a lot of people don't look at much of my website. The website that I have gives me stats on which pages get viewed the most, and I can actively see where people are on my website at any one time. If I choose to, I turn that off because it does my head in. And I don't look at this often anymore, but I used to watch, and most people will repeat and they'd go straight to the book online. And some people would spend their time on throughout the website, but not book as much. So it just confirms to me that community, word of mouth is the strongest point, and letting the practice itself is the best message, or the product itself is the best message. So having something that's quality is, so that people would want to buy it more than once, or want to buy it for someone else. What else can I share with you? Any questions? No questions? Okay. Yeah. Just reading through all my notes here.
I do have one.
Please, yeah.
This is pandemic time. I guess everyone's sort of reevaluating the way they work. I wonder how it's affected you in your kind of business. Just curious, really.
Yeah. Well,
and how if you've thought of ways to cope with that in the future, if you could share that with us.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So there is like online video shiatsu you can give, but I don't like the idea of going down. I don't feel like I could offer someone quality, especially like I've done some of the courses for how to offer online shiatsu or online meridian therapy. And for me, my business, I feel so much passion about what I do because of the hands-on aspect. I feel like my connection is through touch. And I don't feel right charging someone for video massage, or, like, I've never been a fan of phone Reiki, that kind of stuff. I've always criticized it. And like, as when people ask me my opinion, I've always said I don't necessarily believe in it, but I understand how some people might, and it helps some people. But yeah, so for me going forward, in stage 3, I was working when it was 700 plus cases, and I had all the PPE I needed. I screened my clients really well. I could still be working only for emergency situations, and this will open up again. But I've chosen to stop and not try and do video stuff. But there are people doing lots of video stuff. And yeah, it doesn't feel like what I want to do. I would find other ways to make money. First,
and have you, just curiously again, have you considered teaching shiatsu as a measure of?
Yeah, so I thought about making training videos years ago. I've been talking about it for a while, and then I was like, oh, COVID, I'll do it. But I have 2 kids doing online schooling. My wife's teaching everybody over Zoom. So I feel like I've got a pretty full day helping them, keeping, doing all the cooking. So I don't, and like, I feel okay at the moment. I don't feel like I'm not going to be able to go back to work soon. But if I wasn't, then yeah, as soon as they had some time, I'd make some videos. It's hard to make videos without a body, unfortunately. yeah, I mean, I would happily do teaching videos. I still, though, prefer to be doing touch as my modality rather than teaching. But that's also where the imposter syndrome interrupts the flow of business, right? Because after 10 years, I have a lot to offer, but I doubt my skills when it comes to teaching over Zoom or whatever. And that's clearly what I'm suggesting not to do, which is to listen to the negative thoughts that we have, because they limit your business, and not just trying and stepping forward. And, you know, if I was locked down for much longer, I reckon I would be jumping on and making some videos. Unfortunately, everyone's bombarded with videos at the moment as well. You know, like there's so many free courses out there, so much online content that, I mean, I'm spending my time soaking it all in rather than trying to put it out there. But yes, that's the way forward if we're not allowed to open. But I can't see how we could stop touch therapy existing for much longer, because people crave it, they need it. It's good for your immune system. You know, it's essential, really. Yeah. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah, I agree, and it's just one of those things that we crave, is to be able to be in contact with another human. It feels really
exactly.
natural, and
yeah. So I feel like what I offer as a business is more in the touch, which sucks right now. But and yeah, going forward, it would have to be teaching, or it would have to be like talking to people about how to relieve pain by themselves, basically. But I feel like there's enough options out there for that, and what I offer best is touch. But yeah, it will eventually have to be reassessed if we keep being locked down like this.
Yeah,
thanks for answering my question. I know it's a bit sensitive, and I apologize for that.
No, absolutely. It's a great question, and it's, you know, it's being in a pandemic, it's totally relevant to ask that.
yeah, I get what you're saying. I normally see my osteo once a month, and I was booked in a couple of weeks ago, which got cancelled, and now I'm really feeling the effects of not having that monthly. Although it's maintenance, it's not classed as urgent. But now this week, I'm really feeling it. But I also had my 3-month check with my kinesiologist via phone, and I did feel a little bit ripped off. She gave me a cheaper rate, but it wasn't even a video call, and I'm thinking, I don't know how she can really know what's going on just by the phone call. So I get what you're saying.
I find that more, that feeling that you're talking about, more dangerous for my clients. Especially, there are certain clients that are very sensitive. I find that much more dangerous than not seeing me for 8 weeks or 10 weeks. Making them feel ripped off, or like I'm just, you know, trying to make money to get through COVID and using them as a bank withdrawal, you know, like, and I don't feel right doing that. But this is, again, you know, I struggle with feeling like I'm and a lot of practitioners with the whole relationship around money. But yeah, if I only want to offer what I think is quality, and what I want people to feel like they're getting their money's worth. Otherwise, it can, one, be damaging to your business post-COVID, and two, it can really hurt someone. If someone's at home alone, they're, you know, single, they don't have anyone that is allowed in the house with them, and then they reach out for this kind of connection and they feel ripped off, and they're already kind of falling into a depression or whatever. It's just worse. So I don't want to risk doing that if I can avoid it. But yeah, I mean, this is where selling courses, or rather than just like a phone conversation, at least they're getting information out of it long term. I don't know. Yeah. So it's an iffy one that I need to learn how to navigate. But it's new, you know. I haven't had to just depend on it before. But yeah.
I 100% agree with what you're saying. I think the same. I don't have a business, so I'm putting myself on the same page as Russell,
It's
as a
actually
client.
Suzanne.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. My name is Suzanne. Sorry, we didn't actually introduce
As a
ourselves.
client, I think that if I was paying someone and felt ripped off, not only do I agree with what you're saying, but also the other thing you were saying, at the end of the pandemic, I would be looking at that business as a total, scam.
Yeah.
Because it's also, this is what this pandemic is doing. It's turning some people into scammers and some people into benevolent beings, but which everyone's picking sides in that, and business wise and economically, it's no different. So yeah.
Yeah, well, this is where, for me, when I said don't bullshit because it stinks, this is what I'm talking about. People can smell it when it doesn't feel genuine, and it's not good for your business, and it's not good for yourself. It doesn't have a long-term. There's no long-term capability in something that makes people feel bad, but you can have a client. I've had some clients for over 10 years now, and it's because I'm not trying to sell something that I don't feel I can offer. And I never tell people to rebook. I never tell them to come back unless it's definitely going to be of service to them, around certain issues. But yeah. Because Melbourne Shiatsu is going to exist post-COVID, and I know that because I'm in a comfortable enough position that I can wait out COVID. Because that's what I had to do with my life to set up to be able to work from home. I had to sell a house to move into one that I could, afford to risk sitting here and waiting it out. And in that time, I can quite easily, well, not necessarily easily, but I can look at setting up some other small micro businesses around if I need to. And hopefully in 2 or 3 weeks or even a month, we can just go back to work, and I don't have to try and look at a new career or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough one.
Dan, how often do you post on Instagram? Like, how often do you feel like you need to be on social media to keep people coming back and interested? And
probably a lot less than I do. I'm not really on at the moment. I've kind of taken a break for myself, like for self-care, rather than constantly looking at stuff to post, or finding quality to post. Occasionally I'll do something, but it depends on how much turnover you need. But the busier you are in real life with clients, the less you need to post. If you start noticing a dwindling, then you have to just do a little burst of information and remind people that you're there. Because, for example, I have a pool of emails. I've got like about 300 or so different email addresses that are in my system since going to a more automated system. I have a bunch I haven't put in, but since going to an automated system, I'll send out an email, and it goes to about 300 people. And out of those 300, about 30% goes to their junk email. But those people, some of those people are really regular clients and have no idea that I've reopened, but they check my Instagram. So I make sure I do an Instagram post if I've reopened, or if I've changed my hours, or if I've changed anything, or if I've come across a really cool course. Like I've done some professional development during COVID, where I've been learning about even more in depth about trauma body work and vagal tone and all this kind of information. And so I make sure I'll do a post when I'm doing the course. I just take a photo. It doesn't have to be this beautiful photo of, you don't have to do these professional shoots. Literally a photo of, like right now, if I took a photo of us Zooming and just did that, that's a good enough post. Like save the quality ones for your advertising and stuff like that. But you can save, people want a connection to real life. They want to feel like you're real, and they want to see that you're learning, and that you want to see that what you've got to offer. But yeah, so I post those in my stories, or occasionally do a post with it. But I stopped bothering with all the hashtags, and I feel like that's passé now because everybody's into stories. So it's about tagging your location, and then that shows up in people's stories based on location, because people follow the Fitzroy or the Richmond or the location they live in. Yeah, and just, like staying on top of how that stuff works is hard, but it's important. Otherwise, if you learn one way and you just keep doing it that way, things change, and you got to chase it down. Because your old habits will stop working. Like hashtags just stop working for me. I just got people liking my post that had nothing to do with it, but as soon as I had other people tagging their friends, or if I put it in a story and like pinned my location, then I had more random people from around the area that I wanted to promote myself in, my local area or Melbourne. More people see it. And hashtags still have their place, but they never worked amazingly for me. For me, it was more other people sharing my content than anything else, and tagging other people, and then people tagging me, tagging them, and following through this kind of like touching on the pinned post kind of links, which is it's great. It's really cool. I mean, never before have we been able to reach so many people about our product or what we are and what we offer to the world as we do now. It means that we're drowned with rubbish, but it also means that we can access more people than ever before. If you can try and shine through that rubbish a little bit by being consistent and being available and being a good communicator. And the consistency is very important.
When you say stories, do you mean the stories like, oh, Dan's doing this course now, oh, Dan's here now, like?
No, I mean like Instagram stories or Facebook stories, on the app, basically you've got these little things that disappear after 24 hours. And that's what a huge amount of people are watching is the story. So they're the stories are just basically people's day for 24 hours. Like whatever you post, you can post it for good, and where you have to go and delete it if you don't want it there, or you post it onto your story and it vanishes. I don't know if when you open Instagram, you'll see all these circles at the top of the app. They're stories. Facebook as well now. And they're just they're like the ones where you can smash out more photos. It'd be like, if you're bored and you want to connect with people or feel present for people, you post walking in the sunshine. Have you got your vitamin D? Like, I don't know. I don't use it that much, but I enjoy looking at people's stories. It's kind of like a radio station. It can be soothing, and a lot of people tune into the stories, and you get a lot of information over a 24-hour period through your story. If you check in, you can see if you're a business, have a social media that's registered as a business social media page. You can see like how many people skipped your story. If people skipped through your story, if they looked at your story, if they looked back, so they revisited your story, if they clicked your profile from your story, if you tag someone in your story or put if I just say I was like at Rach and it linked to your account, how many people went to that other place? So for example, at the moment I'm being like a deodorant trial person for a new brand that's coming out. This like ethical, sustainable deodorant that some people are trying to make as a COVID baby, right? So I'm one of their trial sweat people. And so I did a post on my about it, where I just put like a couple of clips of me working out saying, here I am trying Seriously Body, still smell great, like, because I was bored and I had some time. I thought, I'll help this little company out. I'll do a little post, right? And that they get their feedback directly and people can see it and then people can click on it. I did it on my personal Instagram, so I couldn't get any information on it. If I do it on my business Instagram, I can see how many people clicked on that at Seriously Body tag, and that's really good information, because you can then you can see how you've helped someone else. you know, I've done a bit of work with what they called like influencers, social media influencers, where I gave them body work and they made a story and like a 24-hour story and a post about their experience with me. One person made a, you know, and this is where it's great, where you give away a lot of stuff and you get a lot back. This one influencer was living a few doors away from where I work and where I run the clinic, and she kept hashtagging Fitzroy everywhere. I kept seeing her, so I sent her a message. I was like, hey, why don't you include me in your next hashtag? You've got, you know, quite a few followers, and I'll give you some free body work. You can talk about it. She went and wrote this whole blog about it. And so that's always there. So if anybody that creates more links online, they come back to me. Then I got approached by another influencer who has like 40,000 followers or whatever on YouTube and 15 on Instagram, and it's like a travel blog. And they told me this is their percentage in Melbourne. And 2 or 3 of their friends were already clients of mine. They said, hey, I really want to experience what you've got to offer. Like, I want to have a massage with you. Are you interested in doing a trade? And I'm like, sure. This is when like your social media presence can become your currency, which is really cool. Because you know, for the person with the social media presence, it's really cool. They get a whole bunch of stuff, and they approached me, and I said, sure, I'll give you a massage. You can talk to the world about your experience as long as you're honest, right? This is like, I want honesty. I don't want people to go out there and be like, yeah, I feel like I was levitating. You know, like I want it to be the truth about what I'm offering, because I want people to experience a consistent kind of flow, right? I want them to come and have what that other person felt. But then, you know, my currency was a massage. Their currency was their influence. And it was like free for both people, but it was free from building up over years, right? And that's really important. So reaching out and to lots of people online makes it that, you know, one, like even in pandemic times, can help you survive your pandemic, because it can, people can still talk about your business. You can still sell gift vouchers. I mean, I'm selling gift vouchers accidentally. I didn't even know it was happening until I got like money in the bank. I was like, oh, hello. And you know, it's, so yeah, you can, there's still a lot to do. Even though I can't work, I can still work on my kind of networking behind the scenes with other shiatsu practitioners, people like Melbourne, people doing some of these courses that I've been doing with a guy in Bali who's from the States. And, you know, he's got a huge influence overseas, and some people from Melbourne are doing it. And now I've got a new network of people that are the only other people who have done this one-off mastering course. You know, so that's important, because then you start referring to each other. People might want a different gendered practitioner, a practitioner who also offers something else. And the more you refer to someone else, the more likely they are to refer to you. And so it goes. So don't be shy to give away, is what I'm saying.
I brought some wicking veggie beds Christmas time, and I was so pleased with them when the veggies started growing that I did an Instagram picture and I tagged Dan the veggie bin man who I brought them off. I thought, well, I'll tag his company because I was really pleased with what I purchased.
Yeah, well, that's the best gift you can give to a business, really. And that's what I try and remind people. It doesn't cost anyone anything to help a small business. And, you know, now when people come, when people have a session, have an appointment with me, when it says that they've checked in on the app, it's now kind of all this automated stuff. It'll send them an email being like, tell someone else about your experience. And then they can, and then they touch that and it links to Google reviews, and then they just put in a Google review. And I've had so many clients come through from my Google reviews, because, you know, people are giving a genuine account of their experience. And I'll make sure that goes to everybody, even if it's someone who I felt like I didn't connect with and may not have had the best experience. I want that out there as well. Or even just, you know, to give it to me. When I was getting used to wearing a mask and a face shield, and doing all the screening stuff when I came out of the first lockdown where we weren't allowed to work, and then we were allowed to work, it took a while for me to be able to connect with people in the same way while I'm, you know, losing a lot of senses. And I got some feedback from that directly. You know, it was like, you know, that you could have used 30% less pressure, but they emailed that directly to me. And which is really good for me to know that I'm being impacted by not being able to see and breathe and hear whatever properly. You know, I'm just got to go back just to touch with my hands only. And, you know, I need to revisit how I move because my proprioception has changed. And, so, and that's helping me grow, you know, that's like, it's good feedback, even though it's negative. So don't be afraid to take criticism. It feels bad, but don't, you know, take it anyway.
Can I just ask, when you have a business Instagram, do you have to have like a web page for it to link to or anything? Or
no,
just
no, but it's good to link everything. These days, these days, if you have a Facebook business page, I don't do this because I have a website that's working well, but you can make your Facebook business page basically your website. You can book through there, take payments through there. You can have a calendar for people to, bookings through, the online calendar, and Square the payment disc thing. Now you can like have a website built through them as well. So you don't have to have a website, but the more things you have connected, the better. The more platforms you're on, the better when it comes to that, because you can all link them back to your favorite platform. If you have one thing that you like using, make that your baby, and everything else, just make it like roads to your baby, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Did you say,
everything is linked.
Did you say Squarespace payment or Square payment?
No, Square payment, like Square Up, I think it's called. I just call it Square, but Squarespace is a website building platform. Then you've got Square, which is like the Square Reader, where you know when you're at markets and they've got the little white discs and you tap. That's Square.
It's like an FPOS. It's a personal FPOS device.
Yeah.
That's the thing you have on your mobile phone. Is that correct?
Yeah. So you've got to you have to make an account. And you have an app. I mean, use all the apps. They're amazing. So it's like PayPal. You can have an app, or you know, even a Commonwealth Bank these days, you can have the little device. So one of them is called Square, which is really popular. And it's popular for a reason, you know, even though it's more expensive than some banks having like PayPal or Square, what you do get from it that you're actually paying for is you can have like an online shop linked to it where you can have all your products on there that you're selling and have a automatic stock take. You can have, it pays you either next day or, you know, whenever you set it up, you can set it up, you get paid every week, every fortnight, like end of day. It sends you a report. It's really quite amazing. And now you can also build a website connected to it. I built my website because of Square. I moved my website to Wix when they were doing a connection promo, and I found Wix to be really user-friendly. And honestly, when I rebuilt my website, I had a website that someone else built with code, and I wanted to make changes, and I couldn't do it. So I just started from scratch, rebuilt this with Wix, and because I had an online presence already, I just had to put in my links to my Facebook, Instagram, original web page, and Wix basically made me a web page in a few minutes. And then I just went and tweaked it. So, and as soon as I did that and opened an online booking section, because like I said, people want to meet you at the door, or they don't want to meet you at all if they're buying a product. They just want the thing to happen and get to their door. So I automated the whole booking system so that people could just meet me when they came in for what they wanted. And instantly, like, my bookings just went like quadrupled, if not more than that, because people didn't have to ring me.
Was that booking done through Wix? That's built into Wix?
Yeah. So Wix I think it's, sorry?
Is it WIX?
Yes.
How do you say? Yeah.
Yeah. I personally find that one incredibly helpful. It's also got an app that links, so you can like, well, for me, it means I can change my times on there. I can get notifications if I want to when someone comes on my website, if I want to. I don't.
Do you keep client history on there?
No. I keep so they have, people make an account when they book with me. So their email, phone number, and name is on the Wix account, but all their personal information, and they can leave their payment details if they want to, and it remembers.
But like the treatment history, you don't have a treatment history with any.
No, I have all that in files. And like
physical files.
Yeah.
They're physical files, or they're cloud computed files?
Physical files, yeah, physical files. I write them out every time I see people. I've got a massive filing cabinet. But yeah, I'd like to digitize it, but I just don't. I feel strange digitizing that level of personal information.
So you'd want to find a way to encrypt it.
Well, if I was going to digitize it, I wouldn't want it to be linked to their online booking or anything like that. I would have something that on a device that isn't connected to the internet, basically, and just make it. There are programs that you can buy, but me printing out a piece of paper for a client is like you have to pay, and it's like one more subscription. And I try to minimize my overhead as much as possible as well. I don't have subscriptions everywhere for, and, even when I work at other places, I don't have a thing where I don't pay rent for other clinic rooms. That's why I moved. So I was paying $300 a week for a clinic room, and I could have just rented another house. So instead I moved. I mean, that was a long time ago. You can't rent a house for $300 anymore, but I moved into this house where I can have my own space. That way it doesn't matter if I'm not busy. Because I can just do something else with the space. I can rent it to someone else. So yeah, cutting out your overheads, cutting out your subscriptions. If I work for someone else, I just give them a percentage, and rather than paying for renting the room from them. That's the deal I strike, even if it means they get a higher percentage. I don't like to commit to that level of outgoing for something that isn't a guaranteed income. The less you do that, the better, to be honest. Like website, it's worth paying for it, I think.
With the Wix, do you pay for the Wix? And also, because you it seems to be able to do a lot of things, is there contact where you can actually physically talk to somebody about the options available for the site?
Right. I do pay for Wix, but I didn't for the first year of using it, and I paid for it because I wanted to upgrade things. I've never had to call anyone for help. But I do believe once you become a paid person that there is 24/7 helpline. But I've never used it, so I'm not sure about that 100%. These days, most things.
When you create. So sorry about the website. Did you create it yourself, or did you? So you created the entire website on Wix on your own?
Yeah. So years ago, I've got two websites. I thought one of them, I thought I'd closed one, but it still exists out there somewhere. But a friend built the website. This French guy that I was hanging out with, who was a programmer, and built me a website for nothing, because he had just done a whole bunch of like stock websites where it's like a really basic, and he just had to put in photos and words, and I gave him photos and words, and he made it out of code. But then I wanted to make changes to it, and I couldn't get in touch with him. He'd gone off into the world somewhere. And the website really wasn't working for me. And so, but I'd done a Facebook page, and I had an Instagram. I had like, like whatever's going at the time. I've had ads on, what's it called? Like a Craigslist ad when they were free, just saying, there's just so many different things where I set up an account, even like local online newspapers, but they're not used. It was things that people tried to make happen and they didn't. And I jumped on the free version. But so when I had Wix, it basically says, do you have an online presence, or do you have a website? And you just put in your website, you put in your Facebook page, you put in your Instagram, and then it basically builds you the the basis of your website, and then you go and make changes.
Are you saying that it actually merged
Yeah.
all the content you had on these different platforms?
Yeah, it
like
took
a bit like a Power Super Fun?
Yeah,
Cool.
pretty much. Like it took all
So
the
when it
photos
got
I had
it,
on the
yeah.
internet, all the photos that I had connected to other stuff. It also took like information. So when you click on a website that you want to make an About Me page, it's registered in code somewhere behind the scenes as an About Me page. So if you connect that website to someone else, the other website reads that code as an About Me page. So it puts that in the About Me section. It's amazing. People are incredible that they invent this. There's so much automation that exists for us that it's easier than ever to make a quality website. I have put, but I did have to go and tweak it. Yeah.
Would you say then, would you say that it would be important then to not ever change your name? Because then you wouldn't be able to collect that data as easily when it comes to time to create your website. Say you've got different ID set for your brand.
You mean business names? Oh, right. Okay. No, I think that's fine because you can still link. It's not like you can still link your old websites or your old Facebook pages to a new one. You know,
okay,
and then you just go in there and change the wording, because what it'll do is just go, oh, that's your About Me, and put it in your About Me, and you just have to go in and change the brand name.
Okay, so it doesn't matter. Yeah.
No, and it's not like I just did that, pressed click, and then was set up. I went in and tweaked it, and I probably spent 20, 30, 50 hours. I don't know. I go in all the time, and I'll rearrange things to how I like it. You know, I've had that website now for a few years, and over that time, I've spent a lot of time kind of updating it or making it fresher, changing the colors. You know, like I do all my COVID-19 announcements on the landing page, as well as Instagram, as well as Facebook. But it's literally, you know, I click it, and then I click another click, and then it's kind of in those three places. Once I've written it, you know, I write it, take a screenshot of it, and then share it.
And how computer literate were you to begin with before all that?
I'm not super like I don't even have a laptop. I use someone else's laptop to do big changes on my website, but almost all my work is done on a mobile phone, and using apps mainly. And my old computer takes like 15 minutes to start up, and it's full of glitches and problems. And that's because I've downloaded things incorrectly. I'm not amazing, but I don't think you just got to fumble your way through it and make it, and then it'll just start working. Most of the apps are designed to be idiot proof. The thing that's important is the words you use, and the pictures you choose, I guess, when it comes to your website, and not using too many words. I still go back and minimize my wording on my website. I still feel it's too wordy. But then I like everybody, I'm very transparent. I like everybody to know everything that I could possibly ever offer them to make sure they have the best possible experience that they need, you know, but I should just.
Have you ever employed a UI or UX designer to help you?
No, I did employ an SEO person, and that's a complete another scam. I don't ever waste your money on that. But no, I haven't ever employed a designer. That is like UX designers is next level. I don't feel like if I was selling a product, I would get someone to come and do the beginning of my design, for my launch, I reckon, possibly, if I wasn't happy, but it's not essential. If you can afford it, it's definitely, it's next level. Like I know people that sell tea brands and things like that, and they've had designers, and it's like less is more, and beautiful photos speak 1,000 words.
So basically you find UX UI designers and graphic designers too expensive?
No, I just don't find them as relevant for what I'm doing.
And as relevant, okay.
Yeah. if I was selling a product where I could, because I don't need a huge pool of clients. You know, if I have, like with my 300 people at the moment, that's enough. You know, like when I restart my business, I'm at capacity.
Okay. What would happen if you went overboard? Like, what do you reckon would happen if you just went over capacity for accidentally?
I would just, people wouldn't get as many sessions as they want. And one thing I've kind of considered doing is sharing the space with somebody, so that, but even that, it's just like I can only offer so much. So it would mean I would have to then consider getting bigger, renting a space so that I can have a second room that my overflow can go to someone else. And that was my original plan, to be honest. Like when I sold my house to find a clinic room, I was looking at buying shop fronts that I could live above, and running like a multiple clinic room option. But there was a what's it called, a property boom at the time, and everything was getting really expensive really quick. We were chasing it, and so we just bought the place that we could afford, to not have kind of any big owings, and that I could at least work out of, and it was like mixed use and all that kind of stuff, and we could live there as well. And then out of that, I like converted basically a garage into a functional Airbnb, functional clinic space. But the whole idea of expanding to the point where I'm having to like manage multiple rooms, like I kind of am at the other clinic, it feels too much. I'm okay with being so busy that some people can't get in to see me for 3 or 4 weeks or a month or whatever. That's fine with me. So that's what would happen if I got to capacity. I would have to start giving people options to book in, and only booking in kind of my regulars face to face, and then opening up calendar spots for non-regulars and new clients outside that, and then have a good referral basis, which I do have, I think. I don't want it to get to that. I like being able to meet new people, but I'm used to working with a lot of the same people as well. But if I had a product to sell and it had the potential to go international, then, you know, I would probably start up small, and I would eventually get a designer to do a full launch, because it makes I would at least get professional photos done and have someone look over my website and make recommendations, just to make sure that I'm not, because I'm worthy, someone who could say like my paragraphs in a photo, or, you know, make those kinds of suggestions. If you can afford that, if you, like, some people don't have any financial backing, so if you can prioritize that, then go. I recommend it. Yeah, absolutely. Your product's kind of platform, your online platform for your product, if it's beautiful, it's going to work better.
Thank you.
Then how do you, in terms of that, you know, I think we live in a culture that's kind of obsessed with growth, and do you feel like you know where you want to kind of stop, like not stop learning or stop, but in terms of a business, in like related to Lisa's question?
No, because, you know, if it did, I have on and off fantasies of running like a big Melbourne shiatsu where it's like many rooms, but I also feel like that would take away from what I'm offering as Dan of Melbourne Shiatsu. Because that takes up a whole much more time. The good thing about that is I don't have to be there for income to keep coming. That's my biggest worry, is if I'm injured, my income goes. So having like, that's where I would fall back on Airbnb at the moment, even though like, yeah, I've got no plans of reopening my Airbnb post-COVID because of COVID, and because I got to the point where I make more money seeing clients half a day than Airbnb can make me in a night, whereas it used to be different. So no, you know, like I try to roll with the punches and roll with the opportunities, and I think that's a really important thing, to be able to evolve with what's happening. You know, like when I went into another clinic as a client, and then they offered me the opportunity to work there, I didn't say no. I was like, sure, I'll work here for a day or two and see how it goes. Then they say, do you want to manage it? And I'm like, sure, and that's what helped me. That's one of the kind of secondary incomes that helped me with this one. And sometimes I think that maybe like they're offering, they last year before COVID, they offered for me to buy 50% of the business. And that would mean I would be making income off the practitioners, renting the spaces, as well as being a practitioner. And then I make, and so from a business money side of things, that's really a smart thing to be able to make money off other people renting a space, but doing your craft. And then, so yeah, but it is also exhausting managing people. I mean, I became a touch therapist because I like touch. When I was working in aged disability care, I loved it because I was with people, cleaning their house, showering them, it was people-centered. So there would have to be a balance, or I don't think I would be happy. But I'm not, so it's about rolling with the change. You forever evolving, but also being consistent with what you offer,
Cool.
I don't know if that actually answered your question or just made it more confusing.
No, that's great. Yeah, it's really good.
And could you please tell me, when you decided you sold up your initial house, from the purely paperwork, etc. point of view, what kind of things, you can't just sort of open a business, there's a lot of registration, etc. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely, yeah. So for me to register, I just had to register an ABN, which you can do online really quickly. I registered a business name, which originally I worked under my name. Then when I moved here, I registered another name under the same ABN, and then I changed that name as well. So it was like, because I had the Japanese bath, it was Melbourne Shiatsu and Ofuro, which means like Japanese bath. And then now it's just Melbourne Shiatsu. So yeah, the registration process of that is actually quite quick and online these days. When I first did it, you had to go and like do it in the registering office. Physically, you had to rock up and register your business name to a person, and they would search for it there. Now you can just do it online. Then I needed my insurances, so I had to get like first aid done, and I needed like proof that I have qualifications, and I had to join an association, and I have to maintain an association membership, which means I have to maintain my first aid and professional development every year. Then I had to. I mean, that's most of it really. Registering your business, your ABN, your business name, and your insurances. So, and then after that, you're good to go. Like, it's not as complicated as it feels, and pretty much everything is automated. Even now, this is the beauty of COVID, right? Starting a business, nobody can see you, so they have to make it automated for you. So everything where people were like, no, you've got to come in, you can't go in anymore, and so. Literally, you can start your business from your lounge room, never leave your lounge room, apart from maybe if you want to post something. But even that, you can order someone to come. Like, you don't have to do anything. You can order stuff to come in, do it, put it in a bag. I used to buy and sell stuff like on the trading post I was saying earlier. It's the easiest time to do it. I don't want to do it. But it really, if you make an online shop, it's such a great time. So when it comes to registering all the paperwork, it's pretty quick these days. Registering a business name, registering a website, it's all, you can do it all from your lounge or your bedroom.
What about insurance?
What about insurance? What do you like for
do you take any insurance out in terms of indemnity or that kind of?
Yeah, 100%. You have to have, but for an insurance in my industry, you have to have you just have to have the qualification. You have to have an association that as kind of proof that you have a qualification. Because to join an association, you have to be qualified in your trade, and you have to have first aid. That's the only thing is first aid. It's the one thing you can't do online properly, and I don't know how they're going to manage that. But getting.
Are you insured through your association?
No, I'm insured because I'm in an association.
Yeah.
So insurance takes like a few extra days because it gets sent to the underwriters, just like life insurance or health insurance. They just want to and literally, you know, I call up, I may have a new qualification. I have to send them a certificate or diploma or whatever I do, and they'll add it to what I'm insured for. Yeah, but getting insurance really wasn't hard. You know, there's people graduating every year. There's people opening shops every year. You know, there's an automated system for these things. It feels more difficult than it really is. That's the thing, you know, like nobody is on their own. This has been done a million times. Anything you're doing is just your own version of doing something that's been done a million times. So all of the things, platforms for it to exist are there. So you just need to just start. That's it. Like, take a step forward.
I originally had, well, I've got an APN, and my first business registered was for admin services, which when I looked into it, I didn't really need insurances for that. But now I've registered a new name to sell, hopefully, for the fairy gardens. I'm still at the really early stages of that, but I'm now a bit concerned as I'm trying online to get different bits so that I've got some stock to be able to make them. It's dawned on me that, you know, fairy gardens can be aimed at small children, and some of these bits are like choking hazards and stuff like that. So I'm thinking that's all new to me. Maybe for this, I'm going to need insurances to cover anything. I mean, I can put, which again I've got to look into, not suitable for small children and things like that. I don't know if that's enough, and I can try and make them as child friendly as possible. But some of the bits, as I say, because of COVID, I wanted to make little DIY kits that are in a presentation box to sell as gifts with Christmas coming up, and that are hopefully light enough to be able to post. But that means some of the houses are sort of that size, so the fairies are like really small. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's all new to me now with selling things. Chances are I'll need insurances to cover that, and I'm also not sure about like warranties and stuff like that. Does that not apply if it's just an Etsy account? I'm not sure.
I think there's a certain point where it's legally deemed as hobby until you start making a certain amount of money out of it. So when it comes to warranties and when it comes to people's safety, I 100% would recommend asking a lawyer about it. And the thing is that any question that you have like that has been asked a million times, and so there will be a very quick response and a very quick way of getting on top of it, whether it's putting a sticker or something on your website. It's just a matter of actually just ask the right people.
Yeah.
And literally.
And I'd much rather know now, that I'm doing the right thing. And it may be classed as, you know, extension of a hobby because I work 3 days a week. You know, that's my main job. This is just an extra because I wasn't enjoying the other jobs that I was doing, that I decided to have a go at this. But yeah, okay. That's good advice.
I mean, in your instance, I would just be opening the shop and writing, you know, not suitable for, you know, choking hazards, whatever, and making it quite clear. And especially if it's just an Etsy account in the beginning. And if it starts and taking off, then you're going to need to get your insurances and all your legal stuff in order. But it's not going to just, as soon as you open your website, just go, whoosh, you know, like all of a sudden, you know, like 50,000 people are trying to sue you for a stone. You know, like the chances of it actually happening is pretty minimal. If you make it really clear on your Etsy account, then you're likely covered already. Okay. And then you fine tune all the stuff with the lawyer once you start actually seeing, oh yeah, this actually could be something. And
I'm an overthinker as well, we say.
Tell me about it. It's a battle. We are our own worst enemies when it comes to this kind of stuff. But you know, there are people out there that will you know, like you can sell something on Facebook Marketplace without making any statement about it whatsoever. You know, like you can buy. I've had people like when my dad last moved, stuff didn't fit. So instantly on Facebook Marketplace, we sold an apartment's worth of goods in an
Well, I might
afternoon.
start off like that because I haven't opened an Etsy account yet, and I know that you have to pay, so much towards that. So I might start with, say, eBay and Marketplace and see what sells and what doesn't, and then I know what to focus on.
Yeah, and if there are any things that, I mean, if you're buying stock and it says on their stickers, not suitable for whatever ages, chances are you should just do the same thing.
Yeah, I thought that. I can go back to the websites that I'm having to buy from because I can't go shopping as such, and see what they've put on this. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're not reinventing the wheel, right? It's a product, and you just copy and paste is okay. People just want their fairy houses,
Thank you.
Yeah. So insurances, I never found them to be that difficult. The only thing, is once you start making enough money, making sure get insured for income protection, because pandemics happen and then you have no income, or you hurt yourself or whatever may happen. I think once you get past a certain point, as well as, like making sure that you looked into GST and things like that, making sure, the tax people are probably the meanest ones, but it's also, you have to get to a certain point of income before that matters, because it'll be considered a hobby for quite a while. I can't remember the exact number, but you can make, a few $1,000s a year off a hobby. And
I think it's 75,000 before you need to register for GST.
Exactly, yeah.
My tax accountant, when I did my tax the other day, said for me it wouldn't be worth the hassle.
It wouldn't. And that's the thing, like there are other people there to do the hard work for you, who know all the answers, to take your blood, sweat and tears and worry and sleepless nights away. All you have to do is say, I'm doing this. There's Facebook groups, there's platforms where people have conversations and share. Reddit, there's so many places where you can get information that you're worried about, and realize that it's not as bad as you may think. And it feels almost fake, because sometimes it's that easy. It feels like you've missed something, but you haven't. You've ticked you've dotted all your I's, crossed all your T's, and you're like, was that it? Yeah. Like starting up a business for me was literally just buying the equipment that I needed to do the absolute basics. And I was buying everything. Every course I did, I would buy everything they sold, just in case I needed it, to make sure I was doing it right. And I spent thousands of dollars of stuff that is sitting on a shelf in my storeroom because I decided I don't like using that. It was a waste, like honestly, I went for the basics. I should have just stayed to the basics and just, kept on promoting and trusting. But I was always in fear of not being able to do everything I was meant to do. And then I was always doubting that I wasn't doing it properly. As soon as I kind of started letting go of that, then that's when I had more success, and when I had like online booking and things like that. But keeping it simple is so much better for everyone involved.
And I'm more interested in publishing educational books. I'm an English teacher. How would you suggest I market those materials and even publish them?
I don't know anything about publishing. I know that a lot of people are self-published, and that it's, again, one of those things where it's not as hard as it feels it will be. It's just a matter of, like, people are more than happy for you to pay them to print books. So I would register yourself as a publishing company if you want to do it yourself, or contact one. And it's, I reckon the procedure is probably quicker than it feels. And when it comes to marketing to children, I would be trying to get teachers involved. I'd be talking to schools, and giving things away in the beginning, giving stuff to places. If you're convinced that what your product is good enough that people are going to want to talk about it, then give a bunch of it away until people are all talking about it. And then, like have a percentage that you're prepared to kind of donate as a promotional material. And yeah, it depends on your target. So is your target children or adults, or?
More adults, yeah.
Okay, so like English as a second language, or?
That's right, yes.
I mean, so then you've got a huge market of like overseas as well as immigrants. So you could be like talking to all the consulates in the city that you live in to promote it to the people that are kind of trying to move here. Like there's lots of options. There's lots of ESL schools for adults. There's also like if you find somebody who speaks another language, you can help them. They can help you do marketing, and then you can literally target your audience through social media to be in another country. So you could target to a town in Virginia if you wanted to, like you can target wherever you want your advertising to be and whatever kind of people through social media. And that way you don't actually have to set up a physical location, or you could send a book over to send some of your stuff to other countries, schools in other countries, or even like RMIT, Box Hill TAFE, Swinburne. They all have overseas branches, and you could promote yourself to them.
Thank you very much.
No worries. How are we going for time? 11:30.
That's great. Dan, you should be a consultant for businesses. You're very, very sharp.
I'm just, when it comes to the education stuff, I feel like I have answers because my mother worked for RMIT Business, and my dad, and like my dad's the Brazilian consulate. So there's a lot of links exactly in what you're talking about. Like when I used to live in Venezuela, and I worked at their education symposium for all the Australian kind of universities and TAFEs that were promoting themselves overseas. So that's a little bit of stuff that I've kind of been in my life a little bit. And you've got Fitzroy readers in friends of family who have promoted educational material. So, but there are certain businesses I wouldn't have any idea what to do with. So I don't know about that. But thanks for the compliment.
How do you find the right person to talk to? Like, say if Lana's going in, how does she get that person who can go, yes, we want your book, rather than just the gatekeeper?
Because you can send it off to someone and they just put it on a back shelf and nobody ever sees it. So how do you make the right contact?
So as much as the world pretends that it's fair, it's not. So if you can be involved in communities, or even start your own community that's going to attract the kind of people that you need, then that's going to be great. And using online platforms, so you can make Facebook groups, or you can join Facebook groups, and other. You have to. The thing is, like, it's like, it goes back to what I was saying before. It's like having your hand on the tar. The longer you can like float, financially support the idea, your dream, the more likely it is going to succeed. Most businesses crash within like 2 years before they see their first dollar. Like of profit. It takes about 2 years. And networking and like completely being submerged in the product conversation and that kind of culture will just open more doors. The more people you hang out with, or email, or talk to, that are in those worlds, or accidentally or join community groups with, even if it's in person once we're allowed to, the more likely you are to have somebody actually bother to read it. It's like promoting a book is like promoting artwork. It really sometimes it doesn't actually matter what's in it. It's about who claims it's good. So I'd be sending things out and doing what everybody else who wants to promote a book is doing, but I would also be like trying to delve into a community of teachers, ESL teachers, and people who are interested in that kind of world.
Like the association that you mentioned earlier?
Well, it depends on the association. Some associations are really active. Like for me, AMA, like Australian Massage, oh no, Massage and Myotherapy, MMA, Massage and Myotherapy Association is really active. But then my association, the Shiatsu Therapy Association of Australia, has gotten quite dormant. Like they're a bit like Jedi Council, you know, they only talk about things right at the end, and they've been busy meditating for 20 years. So people who are in an active association, they know what's going on, they know about all the events, you know, because there are so many events for everything you're interested in. You just literally, like, if it's on Instagram, you follow the hashtags of what you're interested in, and that will link you to communities. If you can use Meetup to go to physical community gatherings, you know, and there's always new apps being invented that link community. Community is key to pretty much success of most things in the beginning, and then it spreads through other communities, and then it just links multiple communities. Because if you go back to the basic human needs, then that's how you're going to get talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, it is tough. I mean, it's a tough being in a world where we are not the only people with this idea of whatever it is we're making. You're going to find other versions of what you're doing in many languages all over the world, even whether it's like fairy houses, books, whether it's massage, whether it's, you know, dolls or maps. Like, it's everywhere. We're inundated with it. But it's about, if it's good and if you love it, and if you meet the people, other people that love it, and you're more likely to stumble into a good opportunity. But it is about, like, for the product to go off, it is about that moment. But it takes years before that moment clicks often. You know, like when you see someone paint a beautiful painting, you think, gosh, they're talented. How can they do that in 5 minutes? Or a drawing in 5 or 10 minutes? But it's really like 40 something years that they've taken to get to that. You know, like, if it's going to be a unique product with your words and your love, if it's not already a product, it's already been consumed, and, you know, like dishwashers and beds and couches that you can just have them come in the door and out the door, because people, you know, just by putting them in the marketplace, then there has to be a little bit of time spent fumbling around trying to get the product everywhere.
Thank you.
No worries.
Did you say mega as in mega city, that kind of MEGA, about connecting to physical communities?
I don't think I said mega.
Okay, what was something?
Meet Up. I said Meet Up. It's an app, another app. So it's literally, it's literally a meetup, an app where you go on there and say, I want to find people that are into horse riding, and there'll be heaps of horse riding groups, and they will have a meetup time. Or you can be like, you know, I suffer from depression. I want to meet people who are also depressed and want to talk about it. And there's groups for anything. And I mean, Meetup kind of changed because it got bought out by someone else. But, you know, there's most apps, social style apps will have a way of fine tuning the community you want to be in. And every university is going to have their own online community that you can try and get into.
You said that Facebook's kind of dying now and Instagram's coming up. What do you reckon is coming after Instagram?
If I were you, I'd ask a 14-year-old, because they're really,
TikTok?
Yeah. TikTok is huge, and it's already turned into advertising and community-based stuff, you know, like, and Snapchat's coming back. Facebook's great for, you know, like my nephews who are 14 and 12, they don't want Facebook. They say that's for old people, right? So if old people are your target, which is anyone above 20, then you need like having some Facebook presence. I think having Facebook presence is always important. Having presence everywhere is always important. That way, whichever one's about to go, you follow it. But that does mean you have to spend time looking at these things.
and talking to young people.
Absolutely. If it's a product that you want, if it's a thing that you want to sell that is targeted to an everlasting audience and not just like 40 plus or 20 plus or whatever, then you need to ask young people, what are the apps that are being used? Because that's really indicates where it's going to next. You know, like they had there was an app that was designed for computer game people called, I can't remember, but you know, like, and it went off for about 6 months and now nobody's using it. Everybody's just stopped using it. Now they're all on Google Hangouts because Google Hangouts started. Then Zoom started doing a messenger option. Now everyone's back on messaging through Zoom while videoing through Google Hangouts. So it's just like, it's all over the place. And it's the people that are driving it are young people, kids. I watch my kids jumping from apps in popularity over the last few months for their community. And community is where, like, community, like building a community around your product is all, like you look at a physiotherapist place, a gym, a sports drink, a kind of clothing. People join a community around their product, right? Everyone who wants to wear Lululemon will go to Lululemon, the brand, the clothing brand. They have community days. Physiotherapists that end up having like multiple clinic rooms, throw parties for their community. Then you have, you know, like CrossFit gyms who are community-based, F45, community-based. Like all the ones that become successful brands are community-based. If you make people not feel alone because they have Melbourne Shiatsu written on their shirt, then that's, they're gonna be more loyal to Melbourne Shiatsu. I don't sell the shirts, right? I'm not, but they, you know, and this is something that I could definitely do better, is have an active community with the app, because there's an option with my Wix app to have a community gathering, an event, and this is when I do my giveaways. I do it through that. I promote it through that as an event. But yeah, it takes a lot of energy, and you have to really love what you're doing and feel like a leader. But it takes guts to be a leader in a community, but that's really where your product, if you can build community around your product, and if your product's good quality and not about ripping someone off, community will stay and be loyal, and people want to help and want to be loyal to a group, and that's our basic need, you know.
How much do you pay for Wix for the level you're on?
I'd have to double check, but it's probably, I think it's like 120 a year or something like that. It's not much.
Pretty cheap, yeah.
Yeah, it's not much for what it offers. But like the boost I had in business, it's, you know, and I only pay for it because I don't want advertising banners of Wix all over my website, and because it means it can store more contacts. I got to the point where my contacts were capped. So I would start out with a free version, and then it costs nothing.
Is that your database? Like in terms of, like, is it only through Wix? Do you have an Excel spreadsheet or?
I don't know. I don't work well with Excel. I don't know how to use Excel. So my database, yeah, I put any contacts that I want to keep as clients. I used to have it in my mobile phone, and I just put client next to all their names. But now, since going to Wix, it starts building your database for you. Square does it as well. But all like the files that I have that were just phone numbers, I've been too lazy to put it all into the contacts. But that's effectively what I should do. Use my Wix app, or what I do is use my Wix app as my spreadsheet, because then I can just write an email and say send to all, and it sends an email saying I'm open.
That's cool.
It's very cool. And you can make it like, go on.
So I was just going to say, I'm hoping my 23-year-old can help me. He's the one that suggested the Etsy account. He's sort of self-taught graphic designer, and he does a lot of music production and streaming. So he's got all these different platforms and sells jumpers with his logo on. I'm like, yeah, he can hopefully help me.
That's very cool. Well, you should definitely take his advice. If he says Etsy, do Etsy. Yeah. Facebook Marketplace is more for secondhand goods and like houses, and you know, but there's no harm in having it there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen. So if you're everywhere, you're ready.
I've got nothing to lose for trying it.
Exactly, especially considering how many free options exist.
Yeah, and with Christmas coming up.
Yeah.
I had a question. You were talking about consistency as being somewhat of a vector for your enterprise, or a foundation, or something important anyway. And I was wondering, how do you link this sort of ubiquitous presence across all these apps and trendy hangouts online as being part of this consistency?
So for me,
and then bringing them back to your, them back to your website, where the real consistency is, really, but without the rest.
The consistency is within what I give to people when they're here, right? So when I say consistency, I mostly mean the consistency in my touch.
The treatment.
Yeah. So
like a consistently good treatment.
Yeah, and consistently turning off like whoever's in my room at the time becomes my everything for however long they're there for. I want that, and that is my consistency. No matter how I market myself or whatever, when it comes down to it, really what I want to do is be in the room massaging people. But in my free time, right, and when I'm not massaging people, like, for example, with Airbnb, the reason I would get 5 stars every time for communication, because I used the app. I didn't use the website. And so my phone, which is nearby, unless I turn it off when I'm with a client, means I can respond to people really quickly. It means I can deal with any booking issues really quickly. I am my own secretary as well as the practitioner. But everything I'm doing I need to be consistent around how well I communicate. Absolutely, 100%. And I need to be consistent with how much I charge, and I need to be consistent with how I treat people.
So it's a really big vector. It has it feels like it's got a huge wing. Yeah?
Yes, it's big, and this is why you need to be okay with charging people money. And as your business becomes its own community and its own self-perpetuating kind of promotion, then you can start dying off from a lot of those responsibilities. But if you want if you want a product or a brand to excel, you need to be available everywhere for everybody to talk about it until it becomes its own self-perpetuating conversation, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But it is exhausting. It is exhausting. And this is why I said self-care is very important, because it does be available. I wrote on my board here in big words, because by being available, everybody wants everything now. And by making myself available for people, it means that I've managed to build my client base big enough. And this is why I'm also reiterating, use the apps, automate as much as you can, because you will burn out if you are trying to respond to everything every time yourself. If you're checking every time somebody goes on your website, you're going on and having to write, is there anything I can help you with? You can set it up so that as soon as someone comes on your website, there's automated responses that are your own words, not the computer's words, and that you're prepared to respond to quickly. But it is a matter of being on a lot, and you can burn out. But yeah,
and those automated responses you can put into your Wix website.
Yep, yes, you can. But there's only so much that's free. If you want to have 20 automated things, then you have to. There's always a catch, right? Wix build free stuff and give you free links like everyone else to an extent. And then once you like using that part of their product and you want to use more of it, then there's going to be a fee. But it gives you enough to test and see that it works, and to justify the expense. But this is really before you step out in a business, you really need to set your own clear boundaries of what you're not prepared to do. If you're not prepared to give up your nights promoting yourself and your weekends, like rebuilding websites occasionally and things like that. If you're not prepared to do that, then it's not, being an entrepreneur or running your own business or being your own brand might not be what you want to do. You know, it doesn't hurt to try. And eventually these things, if you do automate them enough, then they become kind of steady income on its own. Like, for example, when you're building a product and you can just put it on an app, that an app takes a percentage, it's doing everything for you. Take advantage of it. It's taking away a lot of work for you. And yeah, but like, for example, Airbnb, everything is automated. It is so easy for somebody to book a space within an hour of arriving, and look at every space within a certain area and even fine tune what they're looking for. And it's all automated. You don't have to, you just have to set up the account. They even send a photographer out for you, and then you can, as long as you're available to communicate with people, which is really what is going to make everything boom, is being available to communicate with your community around your product, then that is like the key to it all, right? Genuine product and being available to communicate. Because back to basic human needs, they want community and they want communication and genuine connection. And if your brand or your product or what you're offering is that, then it's going to do well if it stays there with its hand on the car long enough.
How do you self-care, Dan?
I get body work in exchange for body work. I make sure I get good night's sleep. I prioritize my exercise, revisit my boundaries regularly, debrief, talk to other people that are doing similar things, and like give myself permission to tune out. But I'm also doing a self-compassion course, so always trying to doing more stuff about self-care, because it's hard. Self-care is hard. It's a big deal. But you only get in what you put out in this. Like if you just want to make $10,000 a year off it, then it doesn't matter as much if you're there all the time. But if you want to make like 75, if you want to be making more than you have to for GST, then you're going to have to be there constantly. And then so self-care is very important. And that is about clear boundaries and about knowing what makes you feel better, and about investing in yourself. Don't be scared to put money that you make back into, getting body work or eating well, sleeping well, whatever you need to do around that. Come and see me and I'll look after you. Yeah, I don't know. Like, how do I self-care? Is basically I do exercise. I spend time with family. I try and eat well. But that's, for me, my focus is body, so that's how I know how to self-care. But I also feel like my work is my meditation. So I don't feel like the work doesn't burn me out. The part that burns me out is being constantly available and, having worked on finding out how to automate everything, working on building a brand where people there is enough of a community around it where I can start taking a step back from constantly having to remind people that I exist.
Where they do that for you.
Yeah, they do that for me. Like when you have brand ambassadors coming because 3 of their friends have had a good experience and they want to do a promo for you, then they're taking the work out of your hands already, because you're not reaching out, people are reaching in.
And what kind of commissions or percentages do you pay people like that? What's a reasonable amount?
So value-based. It depends. In my situation, it depends. Like for example, if I'm using someone else's space, I'll give them about 30% rather than rent the space. With brand ambassadors or like social media influencers, I've given somebody, I negotiate every time, but basically I offer someone an hour to an hour and a half of body work and a soak in the Japanese bath in exchange for like a post and like 3 or 4 stories, which, you know, everyone has their own price depending on how many followers they have. Some people cost next to nothing because they have like 1,500 followers. But when you start getting into tens of thousands, then there's a, you know, you can give someone, for example, if it's like a protein drink, you can give them like a 30% discount, and that they can then offer. You can set it up that a promo code. You can give them a promo code, and one for them to give to their clients, and you can then negotiate how many times that promo code can be used. And that can be a 10, 20, 30% off, because then, yeah, it's about how long. That's really that really depends, the answer to that. It's like your own negotiation as well as what you've got to offer. Like what I have to offer, I don't have to pay for. But, you know, like you could give somebody a lifetime supply of something if it means that they're going to actually move your product. And a lifetime supply is the lifetime of the business. You know, as long as you exist and you're still operating, you can offer it.
How do you do promo codes? Is that again through Wix?
I do that through Square, but you can also do it through Wix, because Square and Wix connect, or through PayPal. It's basically just making a percentage code. You know, you can do it. I've done it on the spot before for people where I've made them a 10% discount. I use the app actually for Wix, where you can literally just go in there, say, make a coupon, make a voucher, and you go 10% off. How many times can it be used? If you're doing a promo online, you can say 100, or if you're just doing a one-off, you just say 1. You know, like, and people buy, like some people pay for memberships for their body work, so they get a monthly pay me a monthly amount, and it just gets debited from their account, and they can come in so many times a month, and I can change that on the app as well. You know, so it's really worth picking one app to use. Like for me, it's Wix, because I'm using it, but there'll be other things right now, like Square's doing a great one where you can just have it all in one place. But when it comes to the behind the scenes admin stuff, it's great to have, really get to know your product, the thing well, spend a lot of time playing out scenarios and exploring it. And all your questions on Google is your friend. It'll tell you everything you need to know. Everybody's asked the question before. There are hundreds of thousands of people using these apps. So every question will have an answer to it, and really quite simple. And there are people that are constantly testing these things to make it easier and easier and easier and easier, so that more people use it over someone else's.
I'm curious what a Japanese bath is. Is it good for fibromyalgia?
Yes, yeah. It's a very hot, still watered bath. Huh? Very deep, it's like, you know, in mine, you sit in it and it comes up to you above your chest, depending how tall you are, and it's just really hot water. Huh? In Japan, they have like the whole family will have a bath, and they and also in communities, in small villages, this is where it comes from. Really, it's like which were built near hot springs, or families will all go and soak together. And it was a community thing. Yeah, it's quite beautiful.
Oh, it's 3 minutes to 12, and
yeah.
I just want to say a massive thank you, Dan. That was so informative, and yeah, I feel like your experience and your research and hard work, especially with the online stuff, is invaluable for people like us, like me, because I kind of steer away and just go with emails. But I know it's something that I need to look at, and I'm sure, you know, it's beneficial to everyone who heard and will hear the recording as well. We just finished this. A few people had to leave due to other meetings and things, but with the 3 that are left, let's just share what we got out, what we're going to take away from Dan. So we'll start with you, Jane.
Yeah, like you said, Rachel, that was really good information coming through from you, Dan, and appreciated it. What I took out the most is probably looking at, say, Etsy and some other platforms that, you know, will help me along the way once I get going a bit. Thank you, appreciate it.
And Mater.
Yeah, I really liked it. I found it really interesting. It's a good like skeleton form of, you know, I suppose how to see a business. And well, Rachel will probably agree with that. I'm just like very much a bath person. So yeah, we like bathing. So I was already attracted before I even listened. But yeah, everything was so interesting and so helpful. Yeah, looking at having my own business too. So yeah, thank you so much.
And Lana.
Yes, I was just thinking, because you are our speaker number 3, so I was thinking it's interesting to watch different people presenting, because everyone has a different focus, and often you don't realize what that different focus is. But I was thinking the things that distinguish you from the other 2 speakers are probably, as Rachel said, that you have a lot of focus on apps and technology. But the other thing that I think is really important for you, and which I got out of it, is the importance of community in establishing community in business. So they're the 2 things that stand out for me. Thank you very much for that. I really enjoyed it.
And sorry, can I just add as well, I like the way you said you also focus on not burning out, because I've been there, and that work-life balance, which is, and not overdoing it, which is good too.
Yeah, it was such a good picture of like the reality of having a business right now. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, I agree. And really good just to name those things like the imposter syndrome and the fear around charging and having to get acquainted with your own relationship to money, because I feel like sometimes it's our own psychology that can stop businesses from thriving. Scared to put ourselves out there, you know, that whole range of reasons why we can sabotage. So yeah, good to mention that stuff.
Yeah, true.
I mentioned that to a doctor actually, and they were like, "Yeah, just," because I was talking to them. This was a while ago. I was like, "Oh, I'm really struggling with imposter syndrome, or I'm struggling to have confidence that I can offer the thing that I feel like everybody needs." And she just said, "Dan, that's imposter syndrome. You know, I'm a GP of 30 years and I still doubt myself, and I just move forward. You know, this was, and every time I have imposter syndrome come back in over the years, I just remember, you know, even someone with like lengthy medical training still doubts their ability to relieve people of their ailments, right? And I'm not even, I don't even make anywhere near the kinds of claims that people expect from a general practitioner. I can't refer people in the same way. I can't order the same tests. You know, people come just to receive that hour, and I still think, oh, if I can't fix all their problems, you know, like, and I have to remember that's absolute rubbish. You know, like just touch in itself is incredible. Full stop. So always come back to basics.
Yeah, and I like that. Just keep on moving forward. I like it. I keep on moving forward. Well, thank you. Well, I look forward to COVID being over so I can get another treatment. And I'll pass details on. I'll email your details out to people so they can contact you.
Thank you.
That'd be great. And just wanted to know, where's your Airbnb / Japanese bath place? Where do you hold that?
So I don't anymore, and I don't know if I will bother reopening it. But the Japanese bath is in Fitzroy. It's the same space that I work out of. So when I wanted days off, basically I would take advantage of the quiet time that I was having off and rent it out on Airbnb, and just take half an hour to convert it, and then the next day another half hour to convert it back. But it's got to the point where I don't want the pain in the butt that some of the Airbnb stuff was creating. And Airbnb's kind of sunk now anyway. It's disappeared. But the Japanese bath still exists, and people can still rent it. It's on my website. So you go to melbourneshiatsu.com.au, you'll see pictures of it, and it's in Fitzroy. People have the bath, and then sometime, or most of the time, it's the bath and then body work.
That's good.
Okay, thanks.
No worries.
And thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, and thank you so much for your time, Dan. We really
My
appreciate
pleasure.
that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
See you.
Thank you, Rachel, too.
Pleasure.
Thanks for having me.